anger or ill will, which harm upon another, even as a mother protects with her life her child, her only child, so with a boundless heart should one cherish all living beings, radiating kindness over the entire world, spreading upwards to the skies and downwards to the depths, outwards and unbounded, free from hatred and ill will, whether standing or walking, seated or lying down, free from drowsiness. One should sustain its recollection. This is said to be the sublime abiding, by not holding to false views, the pure-hearted one, having clarity of vision, being free from all sense desires, is not born again into this world. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. There's some questions left, so you answer them all this afternoon. I can't hear. Okay. You know, as a monk, you can always share with everybody. Okay. The first question. In the simile of the fire extinguisher, it doesn't matter whether the fire goes in which direction, as a simile of the being nibbana. Isn't that nihilism? No. I'll say one in a moment. Let's keep going. The wanderer asked the Buddha whether the Buddha exists or not exists after death. The Buddha replied that these questions are irrelevant because the Buddha is no longer defined in terms of the five aggregates. Then is the Buddha another self outside of the five aggregates? Someone's been looking at the suttas and some of the translations, and the Buddha said there's nothing beyond those five aggregates. So it's not in the five aggregates, it's not outside the five aggregates, five components of existence. Where is the Buddha? And it's the same as enlightened beings. Just as the Buddha replied to the flame going out, where does it go out to? The question does not make any sense, says the Buddha. It's not it goes here, it goes there. It ceases its existence, persistence, stops. It's not here, not there, not anywhere. It's gone. No longer there. Which is a very simple answer, which you all understand, of course. Even monks have arguments about those. Nuns don't have arguments, and that's why I said I got there first. Of course they do as well. But there's almost like a craving for human beings. It's actually the last of the cravings to be, the craving to exist. The idea that you're not is just too hard for people to comprehend. It's not nihilism. It's a difference between the way that we perceive existence and instead of regarding it as a process. The idea of a process is much closer to what we call reality. This moment causes the next moment, which causes the next moment, which causes the next moment, which causes the next moment. And there comes a time when those series, what we call the stream of consciousness, sort of meets the Dhamma, sees what's really happening, and doesn't crave to continue anymore. The bhava tanha ceases. And what would happen if that process of existence kind of ceased? First of all, the craving goes first, and then the person knows that's gone. It's quite clear this birth has been destroyed. There'll be no more future existence for them. So does an enlightened being suddenly disappear, vanish out of existence? Do they poof and go? No, of course not. Once the Buddha was fully enlightened, he taught for over 45 years. And during that time, he was perfectly conscious. He had all his components of existence, his body, his experience, perception, sorry? Yeah, and consciousnesses. But at the end of the life, when those 5 khandhas run out of steam, that's just the way I'd say run out of steam. He never had steam coming out of his body. But at the very end, when he let go of that last piece of continuity, you can't say nihilism. There was something there, the Buddha, you could go and see him, ask questions, but then no more. Stop persisting, desist. Calling it nihilism is just not understanding and not really getting into what it is to exist and what it is to cease. Does that make any sense? Really?
Well, there was nothing there in the way you thought there was.
Not the way you thought there was, yes indeed. The process, the coming and going. Neither is nor not is. In between. In between, not in some sort of Zen sense, but just the coming and going. And just, it's not a thing which is coming, or a thing which is going. It's just pure coming and going. Just like I said earlier about the cat, the Cheshire cat. The face disappears and everything disappears, even the lips disappears, leaving only the smile. And then the smile disappears. Gone, baby, gone. Does that make any sense when I talk like that? I try to make it interesting. Okay. Could you explain what is the mental formation of piti sukha that you mentioned today, and how do you calm it? Thank you very much for your teachings. Well, when you're experiencing, the breath at first, the breath appears delightful. It's a beautiful breath. And this phrase, even the beautiful breath, I took that up from this monk called Ajahn Brahm. Because he actually came and stayed in Bodhinyana Monastery, one of the early rains retreats. And when he came and stayed here, and again he was the one who rubbed the mare's belly, which I thought was going to mean no more building permission for you, Ajahn Brahm. But he loved it so much, we got all our building permissions, no worries. So we thank Ajahn Brahm for giving loving kindness to Serpentine Charitable Council, so that they were very kind to us. But also, of course we would ask Ajahn Ganha to teach, and a lot of time he refused. But then when he did, this is his teaching. So if you want to practice like Ajahn Ganha suggested, listen carefully. He said, breathe in, Sabai. And the word Sabai meant a nice, beautiful, easy, the most beautiful breath you've ever breathed in your whole life. And then breathe out, Sabai. Oh. And that was it. He wouldn't teach anymore. And sometimes because, you've seen him, lived with him for a range retreat over here in Perth, just amazing. You never start to think, oh, that's a lot of rubbish. He said, if you do think like that, it's not enough. It means you're not really penetrating into it enough. He was actually teaching that fifth and sixth stage of Anapanasati, breathing in and out with piti, and breathing in and out with sukha, with piti sukha, with joy, to make it the most beautiful breath you've ever breathed in your whole life. To me, that is a bit controlling, but I've even taught that here to a few of you, those who haven't managed to get the joy and bliss in the breath meditation yet. I say yes because it's not you can't do it. Sometimes that we don't know how to respect that bliss and that joy. And once you get into it, it gets really, really strong. Your breath appears gorgeous. And that's that 4-week retreat which I did over in Bodhinyana this year. That's one of the highlights of it, just when the breath starts to become absolutely delicious, the most gorgeous breath, I think, for years. Really beautiful. They say, how do you calm it? By calming it doesn't mean you suppress it. You let it become nice and even, and so it retains its beauty and bliss, but it doesn't get irritating or changing. It becomes kind of smooth. And the reason why you make it smooth, or you allow it to be smooth, more accurately, you don't do anything. Anything you do will irritate it and will disturb it and uncalm it. It just happens naturally if you're patient enough and you refrain from doing anything. And why you do it? Because then the breath, it becomes even, really even, which means it starts to disappear. Anything which is even vanishes. Sound, which doesn't get stronger or weaker, even feeling. I often notice that when I sit meditation, my bottom, as soon as I get aware of my body at the beginning of a meditation, my body has a certain ache to it. Can you feel the ache in your bottom? It doesn't change, it doesn't get worse, it doesn't get better, it's just like that. And I know because you've been meditating for so many hours in your life that after about 5 minutes, it just disappears. The body realizes it's going to stay like that, it's not going to get worse, it's not going to get better, it's not a bodily danger. It becomes like an ambient feeling, and you don't pay any attention to it, you don't need to, and you can't. It disappears. Like, the sound of the I always was fascinated by that when you put like a cup over your ear and you could hear like a sound. It's the ambient sound of air. It's got a frequency, it vibrates, and you can kind of hear it. But you get so used to it after a while you can't even feel it. What's constant disappears. And I even haven't told that story here yet of when, as a young man in the UK, it was so hard to find a Buddhist retreat center. And so once I joined on a retreat, a Zen retreat, in one of these monasteries in the north of England. And though they did have the Zen stick, have you ever gone to a Zen retreat where the teacher uses the stick? I never got hit. I was fortunate. The man sitting next to me, he was more sleepy than I was, just. And so he was nodding, so he got hit with the Zen stick. And after that, I was awake all weekend. I was kind of scared. But that's not what I'm telling the story about this. We were told to meditate with our eyes open, not closed. And I'd always, in other places, been told, no, close your eyes. But this time, keep your eyes open. And what do? That's no more instructions. Just keep your eyes open, keep straight, so you don't get hit by the Zen stick. I remember showing a video of those places where you use the Zen stick to the prisoners. We used to go and teach up in many places. When we showed that video, oh, those prisoners, they said, don't you try that on us. we'll grab it and hit you back. They were very fast and very strong. And anyway, of course, we never did. And just keep staring at the wall with your eyes open. That's all the instructions. I was fortunate. I'd done lots of meditation before. I knew how to be mindful in this moment, relaxing my body, and just open the door of your heart in the sense that you don't ask what to do, you just let it happen. So just open, my eyes open, just staring at a whitewashed wall. And then, without any warning, the wall vanished. And that was so cool to see something like that. Now this was it 72 or something? This was when weird things happened. That's how we would call them. Cool. What on earth was a wall vanishing? How did that happen? You had your eyes wide open. One moment it was there, the next moment it was gone. And then I didn't disturb it. That's one of the lovely things. I had been trained, in the meditation I practiced, not to expect anything, not to think, not to get scared. Because if I vanished in front of you, and one minute I was sitting, the next minute I wasn't, would you get sort of afraid? So anyhow, yes you would. But when that wall vanished, I let it go, and just watched, there was no wall there anymore. I was still, my eyes had actually turned off, with my eyelids open. Why? Because what I was watching wasn't changing. It was the middle of the day, but a whitewashed wall stayed like that for minutes and minutes and minutes, and because it didn't alter, then my mind turned off from watching the wall. Just like you hear the constant sound. Like I don't know if ever you in Singapore or wherever you live have lived in a busy apartment and you can hear the traffic the first couple of days. And afterwards, the brain figures out it's not a danger, it's not really worth worrying about, it's always there. So you can't even hear it anymore. The ambient sound disappears. Just like the feeling in your bottom. Just like when you're watching a wall. It was helpful, it was just whitewashed, kind of boring, no real features there. And so, mind turned off, watching, and it vanished. And I thank that experience, because it taught me a lot about meditation. When it's an experience, it's your own experience, you're not imagining it, it's real, and it means that you understand more of how the Buddha taught about the reality of our life. Your brain is designed only to notice things which change, which alter. And that's one of the reasons why it's wonderful when you get into any deep meditation experiences, not to watch what's there, but what has altered and vanished. That is where you get these great insights from. You know one of the things which vanishes when you get into deep meditation? You. When you go into that investigation into one's sense of self, who do you take yourself to be? Even many years ago, there was this one Indian guru, No, this was a fellow. Was it him? No, it was a fellow who, anyway, and his teaching was, ask yourself, who am I? That may sound interesting. I keep asking yourself, who am I? Who am I? Who am I? But it's quite clear that that's assuming you are something. You just have to find out what you take yourself to be. But that's an assumption carried there. Now, who am I? What if you're not? So instead of that inquiry, I much preferred putting the Buddha's investigation of anatta in, what do I take myself to be? Not who am I, but what do I take myself to be? And that was a much more practical and more powerful sort of excavation into reality. And it's a wonderful little excavation. Because sometimes, I thought I was clever. I had a degree from Cambridge. And then you go and see Ajahn Brahm, what a fool he was. He was far smarter. Once I thought I was a boy, you get into meditation, your gender vanishes. Once you thought, what else was I? Once I thought I was English, and after a while, you go overseas and you start speaking perfect Thai and Lao, and then they think, oh no, you're not. It's not that you confuse other people, sometimes you confuse yourself. Who are you? Or rather, who do you take yourself to be? And in the end, to cut the answer to this question short, which I should have been doing all along, I always say there's the two final citadels of where you hang out as a being. And that is, in the five khandhas, the doer and the knower. I remember seeing, I love cartoons. I think, as I mentioned, I love some of the Garfield cartoons. That's why I had Garfield Imiter once, who was telling me I was watching too many. But one of those cartoons I saw so many years ago in a spiritual journal was of the Descartes, I think, therefore I am. And it was, this Descartes was speaking with a horse. And Descartes said, I think, therefore I am. And the horse said, you think you're what? Did you understand that? Okay. If ever you've studied philosophy before, you think, therefore I am. I am is a transitive verb. It's I am what? I am something. If you can't define what you are, then you're not. So it was totally discrediting Descartes. And I thought it was wonderful. It was a horse, discredited the great French philosopher. I don't know, animals have great wisdom. They're practical. That's why I always love the great wisdom in cartoons. I was telling somebody about the cartoon of, have you ever read Calvin and Hobbes? Yes. Me too. And little Calvin was a genius. His teacher, Miss Wormwood, was giving the class on the American Constitution to the school kids. And Calvin said, if ignorance is bliss, then by teaching me, by trying to destroy my ignorance, you're taking away my constitutional right to the pursuit of happiness. And he walked out of the classroom. That's a genius, some of those things which you see in those cartoons. But anyway, they're not just for fun. They're not really for kids. They're for silly monks. But nevertheless, you start to see the citadels of the self, where you hang out, where you guard this idea of me. And I always say that one of those citadels is the doer, and the other one is the knower. What you do, you identify with. That's why when you make mistakes, you get upset. When I lay a bad brick in the wall, I try and hide it, or take it out and make another one. When you do something good, then that's the real you. Once upon a time, this is one of the stories from Nasruddin. After he taught a retreat to his students, Islamic story, Sufi. Once he taught a retreat to his students, and afterwards, as a treat, he took them to the local fair, which was on. And there was a little sort of sideshow there, not sideshow, like a competition, like shooting arrows, 3 arrows, and if you hit the target, you got a teddy bear or something. And so he said, yeah, I can do that, easy. So he paid a little bit of money, and he got 3 arrows and a bow. And his students said, we never heard you could shoot a bow before. You never told us that. And Nasruddin never answered. The truth was he'd never shot an arrow from a bow in his life. He took the first bow, aimed it, shot it, and it went halfway to the target. It was a hopeless shot. And people started giggling at him because he was a very well-respected figure in the community. He was one of the mullahs. And so he turned around and said, that was the shot of a hasty man. And he got his second arrow and pulled it really hard. And this time, when it left the bow, it made the distance, but it went about a mile to the right. And people were really giggling at him now. And then he said, that was a shot of a proud man. And the disciples told him, stop it. Don't even try the next one. You're making an idiot of yourself, and we're really embarrassed. He said, no, I paid for 3 arrows. I will shoot the 3rd arrow. And of course, you always know the ending. As he shot that 3rd arrow, it went straight in the middle of the target, the bullseye. And as he claimed his prize, they couldn't help but ask, if the first shot was the shot of a hasty man, the second of an arrogant man, who was the first shot? Oh, that was me. He said. Sometimes I love some of those stories. Anyway, okay, I'm finished yet. So, when you do anything, which part of all the actions you've done in your life are you? We identify with successes, or what we are told as successes. And our failures we tend to hide. Isn't it wonderful when you don't identify with any of them? Give yourself permission to fail. Successes, they're only temporary. And when you're not measuring yourself or a self by success or failure, getting much closer to reality. Have you ever seen a champion sportsman or sports girl? They have a lot of stress. They win a match and people expect them to win the next one. They never allow themselves to fail. You know, I don't know if I've told you this, one of the champion sportsmen which I met, I was 11 years old, and it was school holidays, and we just did hear that this African American was doing some training in a place called the White City in London. He was a boxer. So me and my mate went there, we hung around for a while, and we saw these really big black African guys walking around. And so I went up to them and said, any of you Cassius Clay? Cassius Clay became Muhammad Ali. So yeah, he is. Oh, great. Can we have your autograph, sir? And he was one of the kindest men I'd ever seen. And he said, yeah, he signed it. And then he said, would you like to come and see us train? So, oh yeah. So we went into this, supposed to be secluded, like boxing ring, and we watched him train for about half an hour. Cassius Clay, Muhammad Ali, a superstar. He was a really nice guy. I don't know how on earth he can get into a ring and hurt anybody. But anyway, which is the real Cassius Clay or Muhammad Ali? You know who I'm talking about? Yeah. He was the world champion for a long time. A boxer. And you should be scared of him. Not me, he was a great guy. Anyhow, so I've already mentioned about that fellow who loved his mum so much he wrote a poem about her. And it's a brilliant poem. And when I read Adolf Hitler, who was the real Adolf Hitler? What did he really do? Can we define that? What about you? Angulimala, serial killer, became fully enlightened. It's showing you that what you do is not who you are. You can't define yourself as that. And when you can't, it means that identifying that you are the person who does things is just wrong. There's so many causes and conditions which made Angulimala the killer and then made him a fully enlightened being. So many conditions which made an Adolf Hitler, but also which made him keep some of those beautiful human qualities of not really caring for his mum and writing a poem about it so other people could respect their mothers. And which was the real Adolf Hitler? Which is the real Angulimala? So because of this, you tend not to judge others, you tend not to judge yourself. Then you tend to do much, much, much better good in the world. Being a good person is kind of a natural state, a default state. You don't have to try to do good. It's natural. Somebody needs something, you get it for them. And the other citadel of the self is the knower. What do you know? And who knows it? This whole process of knowing something. What is it? That's why people, they feel they should know a lot about the world or about Buddhism. I'm a monk. I should know about Buddhism. You ask me all these questions. Am I always get it right? Do I? Have I ever made mistakes? I know one mistake I made. Thank you for PJ for pointing it out. I've been calling your wife Serena for all this time, and it's Chi. Chi, I'm sorry about that. It's not me. I'm not the one who makes mistakes or makes successes. You know, it's so much more wonderful when you can admit mistakes and you can laugh at them and have fun with them. So you don't exist in any of those places. You're not the knower. You can ask yourself, if I'm the knower, which one is the real knower, the correct knower? Both the one which fails and makes mistakes and the one who gets brilliant sometimes lives in there. Are you brilliant? Do you keep making mistakes? The answer is no. You're neither of those. Not anything else. You're a conditioned process, that's all. It's wonderful when you can do that. It means you can be kind and caring for so many more people without asking for anything from them. Again, you just love giving, never taking. So those are the citadels of the self. Now, what is the mental formation of piti sukha that you mentioned today? Oh yeah, I mentioned that already. And how do you calm it? You just don't interfere with it, it gets calm by itself. You don't ask it to do things. How do I calm you so you're very calm, peaceful meditators? Have I told you what to do? Have I used a Zen stick? Have I used hypnotism? There was this one cartoon I remember, I thought it was a brilliant cartoon. There was a hypnotist, Sorrow the hypnotist, was in jail, was actually at trial for fraud. And the judge examined him fairly, and afterwards he said, Sorrow the hypnotist, you are guilty, and I sentence you to 3 months in this beautiful resort at the taxpayer's expense and a big payout for you afterwards. You're guilty. That's your sentence. He was a hypnotist. What do you think he was doing while the trial was being done? If ever you're the legal profession, never take a hypnotist to court and put him in front of a judge. So, okay, where am I going on this? Okay, that's 2 questions, okay. Thank you for your teachings. Okay. Does that make sense, what I said? No? Okay, good. If I had to impress you every time, I'd be stressed out. I refuse to be stressed out. Dear Ajahn, understand rebirth is immediate. Okay, this is one of those silly controversies. In some places, they said that once a person dies, they're reborn immediately. And other times, people can remember their rebirths, and they're not reborn immediately. So is there a contradiction there? And the answer is no. When you leave the body, you go to the mind-made body. And that's kind of immediate. You don't go to a heaven realm yet. And you hang around there for a little while, or a long while, depending. And then you go off to the heaven realm, or a hell realm, or back to the human realm, or some old realm. But a continual process is always immediate. This particular flame immediately creates the next flame. So in one sense it's immediate. In the other sense, it takes a time. There is a tradition in many places in Asia of the 49 days. That when a person dies, the 49 days, and then they get to the next life. And there's a wonderful experience I had of that 49-day rule. And that was when this lady, she had a cancer. She was young, but nothing really could help, so she died of that cancer. And because she was one of our disciples over in Thailand, you know exactly the day and the time when she died. And you also notice what happened next. I was part of the funeral, doing the funeral for her in Thailand, cremation. And then afterwards, her father, one morning, came to monastery, first thing. He was very agitated. He was our treasurer of Wat Banana Chart at the time. And he talked to me in Thai, Laotian, Northeast Thai. He talked to me, understood him perfectly what he was saying. He was really agitated. So what happened? He said, at the morning breakfast that morning, there was about 14 or 15 people in the house, and they're all sitting on the floor having their breakfast. And one of them said, "Oh, it was strange last night. My sister, the one who died, came to see me, in my dream. And to say, she's been here long enough now, she's taking leave from me, she's going. And at that, everybody, all the 14 or 15 people in that house, stopped eating. And one after the other, they said, they had the same dream. Exactly the same. That girl came to them and said, I've been staying here long enough. I'm going now. I'm taking my leave. Everyone in the house, without exception. And that was really weird. And for that reason, the treasurer stopped whatever he was doing and went to the monastery immediately, early in the morning. And I was the person he talked to. And I thought, well, that's really strange. Because I knew when the girl had died, I knew when it was cremated, and you know what I did? It was hard to find a calendar, because we didn't have much stuff at all in those monasteries. But I found a calendar and counted the days. 1, 2, 3, 4, 49. After 49 days is when, after her death, that's when she took her leave. She was a really good meditator. One of the reasons is why she died peacefully, even with a very painful cancer. And I told him afterwards, oh, that's interesting. So this was Theravada Buddhism, northeast Thailand. I don't know if they actually believed in that before, but you can see it does happen. What do they do? Why do they stay? Why do you stay around for 49 days or 7 weeks or roughly that time? This is your family. They've looked after you. Now you want to look after them. Make sure everything's settled. And there's lots of lovely, funny stories. I've been doing this job for 51 years, and I was a senior monk. Sorry, I can't avoid this story. There was this Thai lady called Punsap, married to this Chinese man called, it was George. And they didn't have a very good relationship. Punsap was always shouting at George. Always. George, stupid man, come here and get this. George, go and do that. And eventually she got sick with cancer. And she came to see me one day and said, Ajahn Brahm, my husband is too stupid to arrange a funeral. Can you please do it for me? The Buddhist Society of West Australia, could you arrange the funeral? And then I will give you half of my assets, in my will. I'm a monk. I can't do monetary things like that. And I said, I can't do that, but I'll ask our treasurer and let him just do that. And the treasurer thought, yeah, it's a good deal. That's how treasurers think. And so he arranged the paperwork. She died soon. And then we did the funeral for her. And of course, after the funeral was complete, we don't go knocking on George's door, harassing him. Hey, cough up, we did the funeral, now you've got to give us half of your wife's assets. After a while, we did ask her, where's the will? Oh, not ask her, sorry, ask George, the widower. And he said, I can't find the will, can't find it anywhere, don't know where it's gone. So, okay, never mind. And honestly, that's how we operate as Buddhists. If it doesn't happen. Our will was okay. Our intentions were okay. And then one morning, he arrived at Bodhinyana Monastery, over the road. He lives over in Perth. How do you get all the way from Perth to Bodhinyana Monastery? Many of you, when you come here, is there any public transport, a bus, or a train? There is none. He hired a taxi to get here. It cost him a fortune. So why do you get a taxi? You could have waited for me on the weekend when I teach in town. And he said, I found the will. You could give it to me later. No, I couldn't. Then he told me what had happened. That night, his wife, still a ghost. George! You know where that will is, stupid man. Go and take it to Ajahn Brahm now. His ghost, her ghost, couldn't stand the fact that he was messing around. He knew where the will was all the time. And I must admit, he looked the most scared I've ever seen a person. He was scared of his wife when she was alive. How much more scared was she when she was dead? And we got the will. And I must admit, I felt really sorry for him, the poor fellow. So I took the will, okay, this is fine, they can go. Anyway, rebirth, okay. So up to 49 days, yeah, sometimes. Under what circumstances may this bardo state occur? When you haven't given the will to Ajahn Brahm yet. Or there's some other business, so you want to just make sure that everybody is happy and calm. Oh yeah. Ajahn Brahm, thank you for all your teaching. Okay. My room toilet leaked on its own. Ooh. Have you paid the retreat expenses to Eileen? Because 2 nights ago, maybe the wind, but I've been feeling scared the past 2 nights, not able to sleep well because of my fear of possible unseen beings. Could you kindly advise? Thank you. I told, it wasn't you, I think it was somebody else, about unseen beings, ghosts, spirits. And as a monk, actually before I became a monk, remember I was saying that I was in the Cambridge Society for Psychic Research, with that professor, who became a professor, Bernard Carr, yes. We were good mates together. We'd go hunting ghosts. We didn't go running away from them, we were trying to find them. We're scientists. We're interested. What are ghosts? And I can say this, I'm not going to say it too much, because sometimes people criticize me for saying things like this. Even as a young monk, I always said my meditation was really good. And so one day, I think I told this to the monks just a couple of weeks ago, leaving my body and going to look for the ghosts in Wat Banana Chat. Going to look for them. To the monastery in Thailand. It was a cremation ground. So lots of ghosts are there. And when I found one, and I saw them in the distance, and I tried to get their attention, waving at them, and they looked at me. There's quite a few of them. They looked at me, this is how I remember it. They looked at me, and they said, "You can see us?" I said, "Yeah." And they got scared. I mean, really scared. It's something which, I can confirm to you. Ghosts, spirits are scared of you. Not the other way around. You've got way more power than the ghosts have. And have a look at the realms of existence. Human beings, what's the realm next to human beings, lower than them? Animals. What's underneath the animals? They're the ghosts. You're too high than them. Two stages higher. So you have much more power. They were scared of me. I said, don't need to be scared, I'm a monk. And interesting, how can you talk to these people? I don't think at that time my local language was not that good. But if you talk to a ghost, you talk to them mind to mind, not in language. And so, but then I remember, just to make it an interesting ending to the story, I asked them, because I always heard that ghosts, hungry ghosts, they miss food. So I asked them, can I leave something out for you tomorrow? And then they weren't scared of me, and I was kind. Then they said, some jiao. It's a Thai chili paste in the northeast, some jiao. So I went next day, and I was around to see if we could get some, and let it out for them. You're kind to these beings, and they'll never ever harm you. The ones over here, though, if you don't want to handle them, then all you need to do is you tell them, Go! Yeah, that's another one. Go, you know my teacher's cottage? Go in there. Report to it. They are scared. And if you say that, they usually run away. Actually, they don't come in here, honestly. That's why I can say absolutely there's no ghosts in Jhana Grove. The reason is because they're not let in. Even Bodhinyana Monastery, there was an indigenous elder came to actually just to chat with me once. There's this other lady just brought him in. And he said, no, I can't get in. He had to wait outside. So she came in, she chatted with me, and she said, afterwards, said, I had to leave this indigenous elder by the gate. You know, he said he couldn't come into Bodhinyana Monastery. I said, ma'am, next time just ask me. Or ask one of the monks. It's okay if he comes in, and then he will be able to come in. He's sensitive enough to the place. He wouldn't come in without permission. That's how powerful, I'm not just saying this out of ego, that's how powerful human beings are. And good monks who can meditate, extremely powerful. And good nuns too. There's one of the monks, he disrobed unfortunately. He was staying in a monastery in northeast of Thailand, a disciple of this Ajahn Tate. And it was well known for its ghosts. And so he was just meditating one day in his hut, and then he was sleepy, sloth and torpor, and he felt something, pull his foot. And he thought, this must be a heavenly being. I was sleepy. And so, woke me up. And the next day it came in again. This time he wasn't that sleepy. And it kept coming into his hut. And it came in with a bad smell as well, like a smell of rotting flesh. It was one of the ghosts. And it kept disturbing him. He wasn't always sleepy when he was meditating. And sometimes it would poke him. And then eventually he solved the problem. He put another seat, meditation cushion, next to him. And when he smelled the ghost come into his hut, he said very firmly, whoever you are, I've got a mat here for you, you sit here. And if you play around, get out. And that's the last time the ghost came in. You can order ghosts around. There may not be anyone you know related to you, but you have the power to tell them what to do. And once they know that you realize that you're senior, they can't harm you. They have to follow your orders, literally. So there aren't any ghosts here. Certainly not if there's a monk or nun in residence. But if ever you think there are, anywhere in the world, just tell them what to do. They have to follow. Do you believe me? That is true. That's why I tell you. Dear Ajahn, what is jhana? No, I've been telling you, I think this came from yesterday, and the day before or something. But just a quick explanation of what jhana is. Jhana, the four jhanas, are the definition of Samma Samadhi, the fourth factor, so the eighth factor of the Eightfold Path, consistently. If you look at any translation of the Tipitaka, you will see usually they use the Pali word payala, usually PE, which means etc. And a lot of times there's so many quotes about jhana in the suttas and the Vinaya too, so many that sometimes they don't repeat it. They just go etc. First it's first jhana, etc. second. And sometimes we don't realize how many times it's repeated. in the suttas. It is the eighth factor of the Eightfold Path. Consistent, always the same. And that's what the jhanas are. Why are they there? It is because this is what happens if you practice the Eightfold Path. It's natural. What happens if you plant a seed in good soil and water it and nothing disturbs it or harms it? It grows into a flower and blossoms. It doesn't decide to do that, it's just its nature. That's you as well. Your mind eventually becomes jhanic. And because of that, you can experience what it's like. It's the outside of the five senses. Nothing to do with seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching. That's a good definition of it. There's no sense contact there of the five senses. If you can hear a sound, you come out of the jhana. You can't see, even if your eyes are open. And you can't feel anything of your body. That's why I mentioned to that Greg, he's given defibrillators. That's quite a strong physical experience. Couldn't experience it at all. And it's very safe. There's this, there we go. Every now and again, you meet somebody who's had a really good jhana, a really legitimate one, a big one. And one of those persons which I met once, he was Indonesian, an Indonesian monk. And he could speak good English. And I remember I heard about him before I met him in Wat Buwan in Thailand. And I was getting reasonably well known in Indonesia at that time, so it was very easy for him. I was senior to him. So, when I saw him, first of all, the first time I saw him, I was with another Western monk. And I remember the words I said. I said, that's a very powerful monk. You could feel, that he had very good samadhi, very good stillness, very good meditation. So, of course, I made a beeline, an opportunity to have a chat with him. He was very happy to chat. And he told me his experience, first experience. He decided to be a rishi, like a hermit, over in Java. And he found a nice piece of jungle. There's a village close by, but it was very quiet, this place, and remote. And he sat down to meditate. And he was there for quite a few days in a jhana. He said what happened. And I kind of like the fact that his English was not perfect, but enough to understand. He said he was sitting down there, in the jungle, and then he saw this princess. That's what he said. Just come towards him. It's a beautiful light. In his mind, his eyes were closed. And he said he married her. So, remember, his English wasn't his first language. The princess, the light, the beautiful light, like a heavenly being, like a deva. And then marrying, united with her. That's going into the nimitta. And letting it sort of surround you and embrace you. And that leads to the jhanas. And he was there in bliss. He didn't know what time. But when he came out of that experience, the place where he was sitting looked totally different than where he started. And he asked the villagers, how come? There'd been a flash flood. Where he'd been sitting, he was underwater for many days. Not breathing. Couldn't. Didn't need to. He was in a jhana. In those states, you do become invulnerable. And that was confirmed by one of the other stories in the suttas. That this monk, or these two villagers were out in the jungle just trying to get some mushrooms or some herbs or something, and they saw a monk sitting in the middle of the jungle alone, and he wasn't breathing. And he said, "Oh my goodness, the monk has died." Well, if you're a Buddhist and you see like a monk or a nun in the middle of the jungle and they're dead, what would you do? They said, "We can't leave him there. But it's a waste of time taking him anywhere because he's dead, and we're in the jungle anyway. There's lots of wood there. Why don't we make a funeral pyre, put him on top, and then burn it?" And that's what they did. They didn't know much chanting, but they did some chanting once they'd lit the funeral pyre. And once the funeral pyre was burning, they went off to collect the mushrooms or whatever they were doing. And the following morning, imagine how they felt, those two villagers, when they saw that monk walk into their village for alms. And all his robes were perfectly intact. Not even one of them was burnt or charred. And the Buddha was telling that story. That's what happens when you get into the deep meditations. You're invulnerable. So if ever you're in Singapore and there's a fire, no need to sort of jump out the window. Just sit down, get into the second jhana, and then you'll be perfectly safe. That's what happens in these jhanas. Now, look, I'm saying these things and you think, wow, this is like super mundane stuff. It is super mundane. The world doesn't know it because there's few people actually do this, and sometimes they don't believe it. But it happens, it works. So, I hope that interests you from a theoretical physicist telling you that. Kindly explain the benefits and purpose of the stupa. How do we go about to practice? I understand to start walking from left to right, clockwise, and there's a Buddha statue inside when we arrive at starting point. Thank you very much. Those two stupas we have outside were offered to us, again, by the chief monk in Indonesia, Venerable Sri Panyawada. And, he was impressed by what I was doing. And so him and his disciples, they managed to make a collection to actually send two stupas with the Buddhas inside over to Perth. And also the two lions, which on the entranceway. And when one of his disciples came here, his first comment was, "There's two lions there. You got them the wrong way around. The one on the left should be on the right. The one on the right should be on the left." My response to that was, "Sir, this is down under. Everything is the other way around." That's what I said. Okay, fair enough. So we got away with that. But they were just so generous. I mean, that stone which that's made out of is the same stone as a Bol Padur, from the same volcano. And it is those stupas in Bol Padur, the one on the top, this is a 108% the size. In other words, it's slightly bigger. Because I like the number 108. It's, all those books which I write, they always have 108 stories. And so the Buddha statue outside is 108%, just slightly bigger. 8% bigger than the stupa over in Bol Padur. They've got separate stupas. Not the big one. I mean, the big one is impossible to build. But this one was smaller. I've got two of them. Why? Number one, this is a simple building, we wanted something Buddhist about jhana growth. And people recognize that. And when you do a circumambulation, you always keep your right side towards the object of worship. So you do go around clockwise, always keeping your right side to the object of worship. And you can start wherever, but that's how you circumambulate it. And that's exactly the same direction that the Muslims in Mecca go around the Kaaba. And that's something which I always why? There is some connection between the great religions, which we're not even allowed to ask questions of. Okay, here we go. There's, Dr. K.C. Dhammananda, you all remember him. Because he lived in Malaysia and he was very friendly, and he had a lot of disciples who were Muslims. And so they told him what happens when you go on a pilgrimage, on a Hajj, to Mecca. He said on the big place, there's many ante-rooms before you go actually into the central area. And in one of those ante-rooms, you're told, instructed, if you're a Muslim, and if you're not a Muslim, you can't get in, not to look at the ceiling, to look down at the floor. You tell that to a Malay. Only Malaysians here, by the way. You are, aren't they? You told me they are. No? Are they all Singaporeans? Sorry? 4 are Malaysians, okay, admit it. Thank you. So if you are a Malaysian, many Malaysians go there, and they're kind of very tolerant, and they're not so strict as from other countries. So if you tell a Malaysian not to look at the ceiling, what are they going to do? Without being caught. And that's when they told Dr. K.C. Dhammananda what's up there on the ceiling. It's a painting of the Buddha. Of course, they recognize that straight away. In Malaysia, you see many paintings of the Buddha or murals of the Buddha. That's on the ceiling in one of the ante-rooms in Mecca. And many have told him that. And these are people he absolutely trusts. What's it doing there? But anyway, they go around the same way as the Buddhists go around the stupa. And it's there to remind you of the Buddha and the Dhamma and the Sangha. I was always taught the first time around you reflect on the Buddha, the second time around the Dhamma, the third time around the Sangha. Go around 3 times. Can you please revise how to wake up in the morning without an alarm clock or a headphone? I have been trying to wake up for morning chanting, but to no avail. Have you been managing to wake up for breakfast? Why is it easy to wake up for something you enjoy? So learn how to enjoy the chanting. Yo so. Look, I'm an old monk, so my chanting will never be as sonorous as Taylor Swift. I saw a picture of her the other day in the newspaper, not newspaper, in the news. Is she beautiful? I haven't got a clue. But anyway, if it's something beautiful and enjoyable, of course you'll wake up in time. So put more fun and joy into the chanting. If you put it in, then I don't need to. But one thing I love doing, just to make it fun, is again at the end. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. That's why I do that, to make it enjoyable. Because it's enjoyable by itself, but a few people, they can't get up in the morning for it. Who is it? Yeah, program it. But it's obviously that you're afraid of coming in the morning because you don't like it. And so there's a little anti-program. You know, when you put a program into your computer and it doesn't work, why? Because it's almost deliberately you don't do it correctly. A Thai monk teaches that if we focus our mind on our body as a super and the mind stops being preoccupied with the external factors, the mind consciousness will cease, extinguish in time. In that case, the mind will be in samadhi permanently, not temporary, as in the case of emerging from meditation. Is that the way to cease mind consciousness, since consciousness requires a subject to function? Hence the term vijnana in Pali, vi is similar to bai in English. It's the same as bai, vi. But there's a bit of gomayang in there. I don't know which Thai monk that is. Doing a super meditation, the disgusting part of your body, negative. I know a few of the monks at Bodhinyana try to do that, and they just get negative. I've never seen it work as a very deep way of meditation. It's okay to use that sometimes, but not as your main meditation practice. Usually if you have a lot of lust, then you might try it. But there's other ways to treat the lust. A super just gives you a lot of negativity. That's what I found. That monk, who I said could chase ghosts out of his hut, he tried doing a super meditation. And that's one of the reasons why he disrobed, to get married. In other words, it didn't work for him. It's almost like focusing on the problem. The problem became more important. And he fell in love and got married. There's much better ways to deal with the problem of lust. But a super meditation, focus our mind on our body, and the mind stops being preoccupied with external factors. This is just my experience, I've never seen that actually work for a monk or a nun. So it's much better to create joy and happiness through the meditation, rather than the danger of negativity through a super. Dear Ajahn, is watching video clips in one of the precepts? Why not allow it? You know, sometimes people ask me, is it okay to watch the TV? I said, okay. Shh, you don't have the punchline yet. Watching the TV, if ever I go to a lay person's house, I often watch the TV. I just don't turn it on. Watch the blank screen. That's much more peaceful. Or just like fishing. Is putting the line in the river, is that wrong? Is that evil? Is that against the precepts? No, not at all. People tell me the only reason they go fishing is because it's peaceful. I say, well, why on earth, if you go fishing, do you put a hook on the end of the line? That disturbs you. So, go fishing, but take off the hook. Just, put the line in the river without a hook, and throw any bait in there to feed the fish to make them happy. But you don't need to hook them out the river. There's no hook on the end of the line. And that's way more peaceful when you're sitting there all day, you don't catch a thing. Way more peaceful. So that kind of fishing, I reckon, is good. Do you understand that? There's Ajahn Brahm teaching you how to fish without breaking precepts and whatever. Anyway. Dear Ajahn, is anger towards a person similar to ill will towards a person? Oh yeah. How about jealousy? Jealousy is also a will towards them. How is jealousy related to ill will? Thank you, Ajahn. Sometimes it looks the same. Sometimes you want to lower them so you can feel higher. I don't know why people want to be jealous. How many people would like to be the head monk of Bodhinyana Monastery? Sometimes I ask them, does anyone want to take over? It's time I retire. No. No one's jealous of me. They're just really happy that I'm doing all the work for them so they can have a nice time. It's true.
But they're jealous of your meditation, I'm sure.
No, I don't think so, because I asked them, I said, if you can sit meditation a long time, that's it. You've got no choice. Off you go, be abbot, and I can just retire, relax to the max. Dear Ajahn, thinking, planning, doing, letting go of wanting. No, okay. Letting go of wanting, thinking, planning, doing is quite hard. It's not hard. It's hard to think, to plan, to do, to want something. When you want something, many times do you get what you want? Really, rarely. There was this, last story. There was these 3 Australians. They were just lost in the desert. And then they saw this little bottle in the desert. And they opened the bottle, there was a genie in the bottle. And the genie came out and said to these 3 Australians, according to tradition, I'm allowed to give you 1 wish each. Choose carefully. You only have 1 wish each. And no tricky wishes like, can I have 3 wishes, please? No, just 1 wish each. And the first one, he said, well, we've been lost in the desert for days. I wish I was back in Sydney. Immediately, he vanished. He was back in his hometown in Sydney. And then the second one, my wish, I wish I was back in Melbourne. And he vanished and was back in Melbourne, safe. And they asked the third Australian, what's your wish? The third one, well, I can't really decide. I wish my friends were here to help me decide. That's how complex it gets with wishing. That's because you did a lot this afternoon. Sadhu. And I do the hee. Okay. I'm sure there'll be more things in the box tomorrow. Great, okay.
You can do your questions.
Yeah, but you did a lot yourself.
Not yours.
Not mine, but... Yeah, but we didn't put the box out there. We kept it in here, so I kind of hidden. Anyway, it doesn't matter why.
No, you did.
It was done, yes. Yeah, I did it.
Did you?
No. That was me today. Yesterday was somebody else. Okay. Great. So have a wonderful evening and see you tomorrow morning. Oh, that's good. Yeah. No, there you go. I'm going to keep promoting it. Did you enjoy Ajahn Chandra's talk, doesn't it? Yes, great. Did you understand the project? Yes. Would you like to go and see it? Yes. So if you want to see it, you've got to make sure, please support it and give her donations or whatever. And then, the only small ones, whatever you can afford, don't give it to here. Because if you